Good morning and Sairam to all my lovely students. I hope that you all are fine and I wish that too. And I hope that you all are studying at home. And in the last video, you all know that we have completed the half portion of our grammar second chapter. That was phrases and clauses we have completed in the last portion. The left portion we are going to study in this video. Let us begin with that. The left portion was kind of sentences. They are simple, complex and compound. But before studying this, let us revise about phrases and clauses. So, what are phrases? A group of words which have no subject-verb combination. It has no meaning if it is separated from the sentence, but if it is used in a sentence, has a unique meaning. That was the phrase. And what is clause? Clause is a group of words which has subject plus verb combination and it is complete in itself. It has a complete meaning by itself. It doesn't need any other sentence to complete it. So this was phrase and clause. And on the basis of clauses, we have kinds of sentence. How many kinds of sentences are there? There are 3 kinds of sentences. They are simple, compound, and complex. And we are going to study them one by one. So let us begin with that. The first one is simple sentences. What is simple sentence? A simple sentence will contain a subject and a verb. A simple sentence is always a main clause. That means we can say that a simple sentence means a main clause. That is a simple sentence. It will have nothing, not a phrase, no subordinate clause. It will only has a main clause. It has no subordinate clause and it expresses a single complete thought that can stand on its own. That means the definition of main clause. What was the main clause which we read in the last video? Main clause means it has subject and verb combination and it is the main part of the sentence. It does not need any other part of the sentence to complete it. In the same way, simple sentence also mean the same thing, that it is a subject-verb combination and it does not need any other part of the sentence to complete it. It is complete in itself. So let us see a simple example of a simple sentence. The baby cried for the food. Here you can see that we have baby, that is the subject. We have cried, that is the verb. Here we are having the both things, baby and cried, that is the subject plus verb combination, and that completes our simple sentence. Simple sentence only needs subject verb combination and it is complete. The next sentence, let's see that also. Joe waited for the train. Here Joe is waiting for the train. Joe is the subject and waited is the verb. Now we have subject and verb combination. That means the sentence is complete in itself. The next one is Mary and Samantha took the bus. Here we are having two subject. Okay, the two subject we are having and took is the verb. That means again it is complete in itself because subject and verb combination is there. This is your simple sentence, which we can also say that it's a main clause. Let's move on to the second type of sentences. That is compound sentences. What is compound sentences? A compound sentence has two independent clause. Independent clause, that means main clause. Here we will see that how two main clause are joined together. Basically, a compound contain two simple sentences. These simple sentences are joined by a conjunction. That means we can say that two simple sentences are there. That means two main clauses are there, and they are joined by the conjunctions, that is the joining words which join two sentences. They are known as conjunction. So they will join the two main clause. That is two main clause. Now let's see a simple example of that. Joe waited for the train, but the train was late. So here we can see that the one main clause is Joe waited for the train. Here we have the subject Joe and who is waiting, that is the verb. This is the one main clause, the first main clause. But the train was late. The train was late. It is the second main clause and it is joined by the conjunction, that is but. Okay, let's take the another example. I looked for Mary and Samantha at the bus station. Now this is the one major clause. I looked. I is the subject, looked is the verb, and Mary and Samantha are the what they are? They are the predicate. But they arrived at the station before noon. Now they arrived at the station. This is the second main clause. Left on the bus arrived. This is the third, and they are joined by the conjunctions, like here it is and, okay, and here it is but. So you can see that how clauses, the main parts, the main clauses are joined into a single sentence with the use of and, for, not, but, or, yet, so. By these, with these help of these words, these main clause are joined to make a sentence, that is a compound sentence. Compound always mean that it's a mixture of more than two things. That is known as compound. So here we can see that the compound sentence means that two main clauses or two main clauses are joined together to form a compound sentences, or even more than two main clauses are joined together to form a compound sentences. And it is very easy to recognize these type of sentences, because first thing is that we have to see that it has a subject, it should have a subject, and it should have verb combination. First thing, they must be having the conjunctions like but, and, nor, or, yet, so. So it becomes very easy to understand or to recognize these type of sentences through the help of conjunctions. I hope that you understand what is compound sentence, that it is a connection of, it is made up of two or main clauses and they are joined by the help of the conjunctions. That is what we called as compound sentences. Now the next thing is complex sentences. What are complex sentences? Complex sentence is an independent clause. In complex sentences we are having one independent clause which are joined by one or more than dependent clause. That means here we are going to have only one. Here we are going to have one main clause and one or more than subordinate clause that is dependent on the main clause. So let us see what is complex sentence. The first thing we have discussed is that it is the mixture of, or you can say, not the mixture, it is made up of one main clause and we joined one or more than subordinate clause to form a complex sentence. Here a dependent clause either lacks subject or verb, or it has both, but it doesn't form any thought. It doesn't complete any thought. We can see an example of dependent clause. If you have forgot what this dependent clause was, that while he waited while he waited at the train station, he is the subject, waited is the verb. That means it is having the subject verb combination. First thing, it is a clause, but it is a dependent clause. How? Because it is using a conjunction, subordinate conjunction, that is while, whenever, whatever, because, although, though. These are the subordinators which help main clause to connect with the dependent clause. The next sentence is, because Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon. Now here we can say it is a dependent clause because it is using a word because. It is starting with the word because. Here it is starting with the word while. That means it is a dependent clause, that it is dependent on the main clause to complete its meaning. Now, dependent clause begin with subordinate conjunction. Always remember that dependent clauses always begin with the subordinating conjunction that are after, although, as, because, before, it, since, while, whenever, when, and etc. etc. Let's see some example. Because Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon, I did not see them at the station. Now it is a complete sentence. It is a complete sentence because we have used this main clause here. We have used this main clause here in this sentence, and that's why it is completing the meaning. But the problem is that it is starting with the because, so it is easy for you to recognize that it is a complex sentence because it is starting with the dependent clause. The next sentence is, while he waited at the train station, Joe realized that the train was late. Now this is the dependent clause because it is starting from the word while. It is starting from the subordinating or the subordinating conjunctions. But it is complete because, or we can say that it is a complex sentence because here we can see a main clause. That is, Joe realized that the train was too late. Now, the third sentence is, Joe realized that the train was late. This is the main clause, which is very easy for us to understand. Joe is the subject, realize is the verb. While he waited at the train station, now it has become complex sentence because it is having a subordinating conjunction, that is while. So it is very easy for us to differentiate between a compound and a complex sentence. What is the difference between a compound and a complex sentence? Compound sentence will always have two or more than main clause. But it is always joined with the conjunctions and, but, so, as, if. By these words it is joined to become a compound sentence. But in a complex sentences, there are going to be only one main clause and one or more than subordinate clause which are joined by the subordinating conjunction. Subordinating conjunction are different from conjunction. Conjunction are connecting words like as, if, and, but, so. But subordinating conjunctions are after, although, as, because, before, it, since, until. These are the subordinating conjunctions which are used to connect one main clause and one or more dependent clause which form as the complex sentence. So this was your kind of sentence which we have completed now, and here is an home assignment for you all which is based on the what we have read right now. There are 5 sentences in which you have to identify which is the main clause, which is the dependent clause, and underline that part and write which sentence it is. Either it is a simple, complex, or a compound. Do this home assignment in your rough notebook or in your old notebook. No need to make a separate notebook. This is my request to all my students. Now this chapter of grammar, second chapter of grammar is completed, and I hope that you all understood. It might be difficult at once, but try to just listen to the video again and again so that you can catch what actually phrase, clause and kind of sentences is. So with this I complete this second chapter. Thank you, students.